can hear you and I can
Okay,
see
okay,
you.
okay. Sounds good.
Caught you in the pickup, huh?
Yeah, was running errands and I'm like, I'm not gonna make it back home. And but I thought it was 2:30 your time. I was like, I'm late with everything today. So all good. I'm done with all my errands. So
Well, I pretty much don't do anything unless I do it late. So, so,
yeah, yeah,
I mean, that's kind of how it goes for a lot of people, I think.
right. Yeah, I
Yeah.
was hauling hay this morning and then I was late going to my other errand and but she didn't mind. And yeah, so I'm like, oh my, I'm a half hour late for everything. And then I didn't even think about the time change. Because you're on the west side, right?
I'm in Eastern Washington. So I'm
Oh,
close
okay,
to I'm in Cheney.
right, that's right, okay.
Yep. Yep. So
Yeah,
yeah, I think you're Mountain Time, I'm Pacific Time.
right, yeah, I forgot there's a difference there. And gosh dang, I didn't think that TikTok reel would get taken so wrong. I didn't mean it as that was my current list, but I guess
Oh, I did
every,
not pay attention at
oh
all.
no,
I'm like, yeah, she's coming to Cheney again.
no,
And then
you're
you're like,
good.
it's 24. I was like, oh yeah.
Yeah,
I
no,
always
you're
this
good.
time of year messes me up. I'll be right in 2024 for the next 2 months anyway.
Yeah, you were not the only one. I was like, oh, because a girl that I taught in Cheney had did something similar, like all the things in 24 and then all the things at the end of the year. And I'm like, oh, that's cool. I'm going to do that with like my schools. And then I posted, everyone was like, when are you coming? And I'm like, no, miss, yeah, I should have redone it, but now I can't edit it. So, quit.
Well, at
Um,
least now you know people are like wanting to know when you're coming back.
I know.
But
And then
don't get me wrong, I'm not getting on a Bronc.
no,
Yeah, so
the problem
like
with
I'll come
Cheney
watch.
was, but I
Yeah,
gotta find horses too, because Marks were, they weren't bad, but for that area, them girls need like less than what he brought.
you
And
right.
it
Yep.
was hard enough to find the ones that he got. So I don't know that I'll be able to come back for it. Just might not work out. But
Yeah, you got to be able to hang in there to learn some stuff.
well, I
If you
gotta
get
have the,
out and get lawn darted
yeah,
into the dirt within one jump, that's you're not
yeah,
learning
and
a lot.
it sucked. I mean,
Yeah,
a lot of it is the area. I'm not saying them girls aren't tough, but
right.
it's a different kind of riding out. To ride bucking horses takes a different kind of person. Oh, I
Right.
never rode a horse before. Ooh, probably,
Mm.
probably don't come here.
Probably
But
don't start out with them when they're trying to buck you off.
yeah, so
Yeah,
yeah, so there's that. But I would like to. There's damn sure a demand, but
yeah,
it's gotta be the right situation. Anyway.
yeah. I mean, and you got to get out, like you say, you got to get your horses together, and it's
Mhm.
not like it's not like you can have a string of horses that you load up in the trailer and haul all over the place.
I
That's
Yeah.
expensive.
I did
But
I did buy that horse from Lucia, so I did buy
right,
a bucking horse from there.
yeah,
Worked out good for me.
yeah.
Um,
And she was just right.
oh, I love
Does she
her.
still come out and buck sideways? Does she still like?
No,
Okay, that
no,
she got over that.
that was just a weird trip. Yeah,
Yeah,
she just hadn't done that in God knows how long, so it's just weird. She's
yeah,
freaking awesome now. I bucked her all summer with some
yeah,
girls, and freaking they love her. And she bucks without a flank. You don't even
yeah,
have to put a flank on her, so it's just great.
yeah.
I
Well, and
love
that's
her
perfect
so
because she
much.
doesn't probably just cut it in two with them. She gives them a chance to get a
No.
rhythm and
Yeah, she's
cool.
just kind of like flat, like
Yep.
easy, easy. And she's halter broke, so it's just great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's funny because you'd think everybody's trying to get their horses not to buck, and then you're kind of looking for ones that do a little bit. Like
Right.
put a little ad out. If you got a little horse that kind of just wants to buck and doesn't really
Well,
want to not stop bucking, then look me up.
and that's the thing is if I had my own place, I had probably 10 different people call me, "Hey, I saw you got your own bucking horse. This horse would be really good for your program." And I'm like, "Oh, I'm flattered you think I have a program, but I don't have my own place yet. I rent a pasture and I'm at my limit already with horses on it. So
Yeah.
I can't have 15 freaking bucking horses and I'm not ready yet, but I'm flattered. So I imagine when the time comes and I put out like, "Hey, anyone want to sell me their saddle horse that won't quit bucking? I'll buy it." I'll have a full pasture, I'm sure, when I'm ready. So that was
Right.
cool. But
Yeah.
for now, I've got Judy, and she's just great.
Yeah. Yeah, she's a good one to learn on. And even to have some that don't buck at all so they can get out and get the feel of what that's like,
Yeah.
Like
Well,
they
and
start kids out on horses with a bull rope just to
right.
feel what it's like to just walk around with that before they get
Well,
them on anything that's trying to buck them off.
perfect. Yeah. And the cool thing about Judy is she bucks really, really good with a flank. So if I wanted more out of her, I can
Yeah.
get it.
Yeah.
And she knows her. She's the smartest thing, and I have so much respect for horses like her because they're very rare that can turn around and do two things. You could pick her feet up, trim, load her, back her out of a trailer. Like, just I could not ask for a better horse for like what I'm doing. So,
Yeah. Well, that's the time she spent with Lucia, right? Like,
well, a lot of it is, yeah.
yeah.
We actually taught her how to load the trailer at Cheney. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, and I'll get some foals out of her and pass it along and stuff like that. So
Cool.
I'm excited for her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's really cool. Yeah, well, good. All right. So I don't know if you had a chance to like watch and or listen to any of the podcasts at all to know kind of, but I think I explained what the premise is of the podcast, right?
Right.
Like,
Yeah.
um, tell me your story as whatever your story is, and I'm going to get distracted. My ADHD is going to kick in. Is that a hanging tree dog in your back seat there?
Oh, okay. So that Bonnie, that's
Oh, there's a shag.
Idaho shag hanging
Yep.
tree, and then this little one, Vera, is the daughter,
Okay.
and the dad's a wiener
Oh,
dog. The dad's a wiener dog.
I was going to
So
say she looks a little wienerish.
yeah,
Oh my gosh.
that was an accident. That was a rape. That was a rape litter in my pickup. Um, about 6 years ago. I don't have the stud dog. I don't have the wiener stud anymore. But yeah, yeah, that was a good time. Best little dog I've ever had, and I cannot recreate it. I've tried to get other studs to breed her. They won't do it. So
Oh, really? But the
she's an
wiener dog got it
anomaly.
done.
Yeah, she's an anomaly. I could probably AI her, but vets don't really want to do that. So
Yeah. That's get people get they get funny when you're breeding dogs. Like I have corgis, I raise corgis and I'm like I just did a dispersal. I'm not doing it anymore. My that last litter was my last litter.
yeah,
But anyway, yeah, they get I don't know, they kind of talk down to you like you're just,
right.
and it just is like,
Like, who are you to be doing this? And yeah,
yeah, like no, I'm not going to the Westminster, but I've got, like I've designed my program to be nice dogs that are genetically
mm-hmm.
good and behavioral, all that. But anyway, I'm out of that deal. That's my last, this is the last
Yeah.
thing. Okay, anyway, sorry about that. I got distracted. It's gonna probably happen more.
Well,
Um,
I'm the same way.
Good. So yeah, I just want you to be free to tell your story for whatever that means to you. It means different
Okay.
things to different people. So whatever that means to you. And if you see me sort of like looking away or looking down, it's just because I'm trying to take notes to like ask
Hmm.
you a question later. Because I
Okay.
don't want to always interrupt. I might interrupt anyway, but I'll try not to.
That's
And
fine.
just kind of give you that floor to tell us your story
Hmm.
and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
Take it away.
Oh yeah. Okay. So you have to kind of help me start. So how far back do I go?
It's totally up to you. Like so, like this podcast is women that are gritty, and a lot of them choose to talk about what they think made them that way,
Oh, okay.
or how being gritty has served them in their life, or both things. Like I've had people go way back to like their very childhood, and kind of talk like how they were raised and things like that. And I've had people give me like their testimony, or
Hmm.
it's just kind of whatever you feel, however you feel led to talk. So,
Okay.
wherever you feel like your story
Okay.
sort of
I,
begins, then
I got an idea, I suppose.
yeah.
Um. So I am not from one spot. Everybody always asks me where I'm from, and I never know what to say. So I was born in California. We lived there for a little bit, moved to Washington, lived there. Dad was Navy, so mom followed around. And then my mom's family is from Illinois, and we lived in Missouri or I lived in Missouri for about 10 years or so before I moved to Montana for college. Um, I didn't really ride a horse till I was in my teens. I didn't know what I was doing. I used to clean a 40 stall barn in exchange for riding lessons. All I knew is needed to be involved with horses. There was something about horses I really, really liked. And in Missouri, there's not a lot of opportunity for that kind of stuff besides going into vet school, which is what I was going to do. I shadowed vets around for a couple of years thinking that's what I wanted to be. And at the barn I used to go to, I fell in love with a old abused mule that had pieces missing out of his ear from being twitched, and absolutely hated men. Um, and he knew it too. It was really cool to see this. He knew the difference between a man and a woman, and I got connected with him because nobody else wanted to touch him, brush him, just spend time with the thing. And something told me I needed to befriend this mule, and his name is Mervin. Um, and so me and him connected, and he damn sure ran off with me a lot. I tried riding him every chance I could, and I mean it was a shit show. Like, we did really good, but there was a lot of times like he scared the shit out of me. And he wasn't very big either. He's 14'1" maybe. Um, but I fell in love with him, and I loved the changes that I saw in him too because of what I was doing, just being around him and helping him to get over things and stuff like that. And I'm like, this is so cool. Like this has to be a thing out there, like training wise or whatever. And growing up in Missouri, I don't know much about horsemanship and didn't even understand that was a thing. And I found this college in Montana where you can earn a college degree in natural horsemanship, and I thought that was the best thing ever. That was perfect, right? I can learn how to communicate and ride horses um at their level, at a level that the horse understands, and not just what we see on movies and stuff like that. I knew there was a better way because of the changes I saw in this mule. So he was the big driving force behind me coming to Montana, and I've been here for going on 15 years now. I'm a resident and did all that stuff, and graduated and got my degree. I minored in psychology as well because I really like that too. It was kind of a fallback. um, and so, yeah, that mule is the reason I came here. And a gal had adopted him, and so he's lived out his life in a pasture. He actually died last December, and he was 41 or 42 years old. Um, I can't remember if he was gonna be 42, I think, or something like that. And that was pretty damn cool, because about it must have been 2017 or 18 or something like that. I went to Missouri to see him. I left in 2010, so it'd been 7, 8 years. And granted, you can't walk up and catch this guy. Like, he's doesn't like people, right? And I hadn't seen him in so long. He walked up to me and ate a treat out of my hand. And it's in Missouri in December. It was probably like 20 degrees, and for Missouri that's pretty cold because all the humidity and the moisture and stuff. And the gal that owned it, I mean, she's bawling and I'm bawling because I'm like, oh my god, this thing remembered me. And she goes, you can't do that. He knows who you are. And he walked up and ate a treat out of my hand, and she took pictures of it. That I'll always love that because I could not believe it. And then he died last year, and I haven't had a chance to see him since that moment. But yeah, that little guy changed my whole life. And so going into college, I wanted to be part of this Western lifestyle, right? This horsemanship, these cowboys, these rodeo guys. Like, I fell in love with the Western culture and just threw myself into it. I wanted to learn everything I could. I wanted to be good. I wanted people to be proud of me. I was trying to find where I fit in, because you're, the out of stater, you're the outlander, you're trying to find where you belong, that kind of stuff. And then nothing ever felt right. I always tried, and I'm really awkward at making friends, or I was. I didn't have that much confidence in myself. I was still figuring out who I am, what I'm gonna do. I'm 28, 19, 20 years old, that kind of stuff. And so I'd always loved rodeo, but I was too nervous to barrel race. It wasn't my thing. I did not rope at the time. I didn't know how to rope. So I wasn't gonna go rope in front of people. I always loved bucking horses, but I'm like, there's no way in hell I could ride saddle bronc. Like, that takes some serious dedication, right? And I'm halfway through college. I'm doing the cold start deal, and I'm advancing my skills and learning more about horses and stuff like that. And I've rode cold set buck, sure, whatever. And I saw this rodeo in Idaho. It had a women's ranch bronc riding, and I'm like, okay, that's cool. Women on bucking horses. That isn't a thing. And so I looked up ranch bronc. I was like, what are ranch broncs? And it's your everyday working saddle on a bucking horse, the original saddle bronc riding. And I deep dive got obsessed with the ranch bronc culture and just everything. I learned everything about it before I went to this rodeo. And I'm like, oh, you just saddle a horse like normal. You just pull it a little tighter and, hang on and nod your head and let go and go. And I'm like, okay, well, that's honestly pretty damn simple, right? And I covered
Yeah.
my first bucking horse, won my first rodeo, and that was it. Took off like wildfire. I entered every damn thing I could find that said Ranch Bronc. It didn't have to be a women's. I entered the open with men, and looking back, I didn't understand that there's different calibers of bucking horses out there. The horses I was getting on my second, third, and fifth horse, I had no business getting on, but nobody told me any different. Everyone was kind of scared of me at that point, and
Mm.
because it wasn't a known fact that women ride broncs. Like, nobody, it's just this unspoken thing. It's not outlawed. I looked it up. I Women have done it here and there, hometown deal, once a year, whatever. And I'm like, okay, well, it's me. I'm gonna do this. And I damn sure got my ass handed to me about 20 times before I ever covered another one again. They're like, oh, you suck, this and this, and you won't be good enough to ride with us. But all them guys did was fuel the fire. It discouraged me, yeah, sure, but um, I'm so damn stubborn and competitive with my own self that it just fed it. And I'm like, I don't care if it takes me 10 years. I want to learn how to do this and do it with respect and do it the right way, um and earn that from people. I want people to look at me and say, yeah, that girl doesn't quit. So, kind of took off from there.
Yeah.
It was a good chunk of my life. That's most of my 20s right there. But
Yeah.
do you have anything you want to ask, or you want me to keep going?
Go, just keep on going. I'm
Going.
kind of taking mental notes too.
Yeah. So let's see. I'd been riding, graduated college, went off cowboying, learning how to do that, and it was okay and fun. I loved traveling around because I love to travel. Never in one spot for very long. So cowboying kind of allowed me to do that. But on top of that, being a girl, I wasn't allowed permanent work. It was always seasonal, which to me was fine. I didn't have anything against it. I liked moving around. I liked living in my pickup in between jobs and not not paying my debt that I promised I would pay back after I graduated. I am now, but I liked rodeoing and throwing everything I had into it because I knew I could come back and pay my debt off and go back to my horsemanship career. And I knew there was a window where I didn't want to um, give up riding broncs just yet. I wanted to milk that cow while I could, and I'm glad I did, because now I well, it's different now, but I'm glad I did that while I could, because it brought me to a lot of cool places and connected with a lot of really good people. Um, and then I went to Texas, and the guy who had the association there, he had a women's ranch bronc, and And then a TV show picked us up, and so I did that for about 3 years. And I was the only one with experience at the time. The other girls hadn't really rode before, and so we did that for a while, and that was a pretty good deal. And that kind of is the point in women's ranch bronc riding that really got attention, that really took off, because I'd been riding for 5 or 6 years before that show. And yeah, people knew my name, but no other girls were really riding. There were some here and there, but none of them wanted to talk to me or or whatever. And I tried to help as many as I could if they wanted it, but I got kind of sour about them after that show, because I didn't it didn't go the way I thought it would go. It was great, and I don't have anything against any of them, but it made me really resent riding with women. And I flat refused to help or teach anybody for a long time, because I'm like, well, learn the way I did, and well, you got to want it, and I'm not going to baby you. I'm not going to help you and teach you every step of the way. If you want to ride, go do it like I did. And I realize now that that was not the mentality I wanted. That's not the legacy I want to leave behind, or as much knowledge as I have about the subject, I don't want that to die with me. And so after the TV show, I started kind of teaching girls, mostly through Facebook and messenger texting, sending hundreds of photos back and forth. And I'm like, at one point, I got so overwhelmed, I could not keep up with everybody. And it was repeating myself over and over and over again. And I'm like, it'll be so much easier if y'all could just come into one spot and I'll just teach you. And I'm like, oh, duh, that would be a school. Because I'd been to a few schools, but there's no such thing as a Ranch Bronc school, at least not when I was going. You just showed up to a saddle bronc school and pretty much just rode horses and, paid to be there. And them guys didn't know how to help you because it's not the same. And so, because of that TV show, and then because of this, like this business that I've started, teaching women how to ride bucking horses, um, really started getting attention. Now there's men's ranch bronc schools. Now there's pickup men's schools. Now there's all these schools I'm seeing, and I'm like, where was that when I started? There was none of that. Um, and so it's becoming ranch bronc in itself is becoming so common knowledge now. It's amazing because it didn't used to be. It's probably, I mean, 15, 16 years old, 17 years old, like modern time, I guess. It's as old as the late 1800s, but there was a pretty big gap in the 60s, 70s, 80s where it kind of just died off, but it's coming back. And now, and I really push women to ride ranch broncs just because saddle bronc takes such a dedication. um Ranch broncs, I'm not saying you can be lazy and do it. You still got to put in the effort, but it's a little bit easier for women to ride ranch broncs right now than it is saddle bronc. And I know a couple girls that have gotten on saddle broncs and have tried it, because I damn sure never tried one. And I've been riding for 10 years. um so that's kind of cool to see ranch broncs grow as much as they have, and especially the women's side of things too. um and I've been teaching, this is going to be my third year. I started in 23, um kind of officially, I suppose, as a business. And I've probably taught about 150 women so far in the last 2 years. Last year alone was I taught 65. I just added it up.
Oh, wow.
And I know I did about the same amount the year before. And then, to be fair, technically, my very first school was in France, which is something weird. Um, I saw a rough stock school, like a saddle bronc school in France, and I'm like, "What? They have rodeo over there?" I didn't know, and I'd been to France before in high school, because I took 4 years of it in high school, and we took a trip there, and when I was 15. And but I'm like, they don't have rodeo here. It's illegal, like it is in England, right? No, I taught my first school in 2020, in France. Yeah, should have been 20. Yeah, before all the COVID shit happened. And it was freaking awesome, huge success. And I know enough about the language to communicate, but not enough to talk like this. So it worked out pretty well. And then I came back a couple months later, taught a second school in France, And same thing, it was just freaking awesome. Introduced Ranch Broncs over there because they don't know what that is. It's bull riding, team roping, saddle bronc, a little bit of bareback. Um, and then after France, I went to Canada and taught a school in Canada, and then I got one in the U.S. started. So I went international for quite a bit before I ever got one in the States going, which is really dumb to me, but this is kind of the way it went, and I'm freaking love it. Like I didn't know this is kind of what I needed, because I don't feel the need to ride bucking horses anymore. I love it, and I love what it does to me. It gives me confidence, goal oriented. You're more aggressive about the things you decide to do. You're in control. But that adrenaline feeling, I never got that from a bucking horse. I don't get nervous. I know exactly what they're going to do. They're going to buck or they're not. And you're either going to stay on or you're not. So I never got anxiety attacks over what was going to happen. I let them buck. And that's the cool thing about what I teach too is I don't teach these girls to fight them. I teach them to go with them. Especially being a woman, you ride differently than a man does anyway, and that's a whole other thing too. Um, but
Talk about that. It sounds
yeah,
like you're kind of at a pause anyway.
yeah, I kind of
Because I
forgot what I
agree
was
with
going
I
there.
agree with you. I agree with you that there are differences in how, like, even like throwing a ball. And I don't and some people could say, "Oh yeah, that's nurture versus nature." I'm a little bit like, okay, so yeah, little boys probably play catch more out in the front yard than little girls do. But even then, there's just a difference in the biomechanics in
Hmm.
men and women.
Right,
And yeah, regardless of, like, regardless of any, like, feelings you have about that, the science is, physics is physics. And
right, yeah,
so so I'm like interested in hearing, because like I've ridden horses my whole life, and I've team roped and breakaway roped and run barrels, and all I rode cows and I was in high school because I had to have my little rough stock wild side.
yeah.
Um, but there's definitely an aggressiveness that I really have to channel to be
Mhm.
competitive. And so I want to hear what you think about, like your experience and your observations with that.
With being a woman versus a guy.
Yeah, and
Um,
how you think, how you, because you said you feel like they ride different, and I'm just interested in hearing like what your observations are with that.
well, in the rough stock world too, a guy is physically stronger with their upper body, right? That's why
For
they can
sure.
manhandle a lot of these bucking horses, and they're stronger with their upper body. Where versus women, we are obviously built different. Our pelvis is different. Um our our leg bones are different. We're built the way we are for a certain reason. But
Right.
women, we ride better with our hips. Um, it's probably why we have babies. Um, so
A
so I
multitude of other reasons, but yeah.
yeah. So I teach I the way that I teach is the way that I teach our physical bodies and our reaction time in our head too, because a guy's reaction time even mentally is different than ours too. And I sure could teach him to ride like a guy, but a woman will never out muscle a bucking horse. You just won't. Even a guy can't. I mean, they can do better than us, but the reason these women can ride these bucking horses as good as they do and make it look good is because we ride with the motion. And a guy dang sure can too. They're just a little bit, stronger with their arms. They can pick that horse's head up a little better and help that horse buck. We can as well, um, but I really emphasize on these girls: do not ride like a man. You're gonna ride like a woman, and I teach them body position and stuff like that that helps them absorb the power of that first buck, and then it's just a dance after that. You might hear a lot of guys say riding a bronc is like dancing, and it's because we go with them. They lead, we follow. Um, you can try your best to control that horse and manhandle him, but in the end, you're fighting dead weight. you let that horse buck and encourage him to buck, pick his head up, and spurring on him obviously doesn't hurt him. You're not going to spur a horse hard enough to change his damn mind. And if you do, then good for you. But wow, I have never seen it. And so when you spurring on him and you're helping and you're picking that horse up to help him buck better, you're gonna win money. A judge likes to see that, and you're gonna do really well for yourself in your rodeo career. But if you're just gonna fight against that horse all the time, and you're gonna get, and we say get out of timing too. A horse bucks like a rocking chair, right? And if you're out of that timing, it's just gonna be a fight the whole time, and like hitting a brick wall with your body for 8 seconds, and it doesn't look good, it doesn't feel good, um and it damn sure probably doesn't feel good to the horse either. But so riding with that horse, I teach that a lot, and there's a lot of horsemanship involved in what I teach these girls too. A lot of it being in the chute, but you can even set a horse up out of the gate to come out on the correct lead. If you move their feet in the chute, change their cadence so that they will come out on, if they're coming out of the right side, then you can move their feet in the chute so they can come out on the right lead and buck that way too. Um, there's all kinds of tricks like that people aren't aware of, that nobody
Yeah.
teaches or passes down to the next
Yeah.
generation. And in my mind, for every 15 girls that I teach at a school, they will go talk to their friend, at least one friend, and tell them everything, and then those friends will pass that along, and so that 15 turns to 30, and that 30 turns to 60, and I do that times 10 every year. I There will damn sure be enough pressure and demand on these rodeos, these contractors, to start getting women's bucking horses, these low level horses that these girls can start and learn on, and then advance them up to this medium caliber. But we don't start our kids on this kind of stuff. That's why we have youth and senior divisions and high school level and so on. But for women, we just got thrown in with the open, which was it's great and all, but I don't want them to learn the way I did. I want to build them up and teach them to take 2 steps and then they can run, kind of thing.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it's like we make movies about this concept too, and it's the only way I can explain it. But you can gather a bunch of peasants and farmers together and throw them into battle, and sure, 50% of them will live. But if you can take the time to teach them how to fight, you're probably going to win the battle. And that's where these schools come into play too. I want to give them the opportunities that I didn't have. I want to give them the tools that I didn't get either. I learned from my mistakes, which is great and all, but if I can avoid them wasting all that time, then I want to. I want to pass this along, because if I don't, it just stays in my head, and that's it. It'll die with me when I die. So I don't want that. And I don't do this to be cocky or braggy or to leave a legacy or do any of that stuff. If I can do something or say something that will help a girl be better or be a champion or be a competitor for me, then hell yeah, I want to. I don't want to just be the only one that wins all the time. It's boring. I want my own competition, and if I have to teach them, that's fine, because that competition makes me better. It makes me try harder. It makes me um uh not, like, oh, I'm not good enough anymore. Bye. No, like, they make me better. And I know I'm making them better, but they're doing the same thing for me.
Yeah. In my mind, in my opinion, and I know a lot of people share that opinion, like that is the true like mark of a teacher, that that you're always trying to advance, but you're teaching, you're teaching, but you're learning also, and that teaching makes you better.
I had no idea about that. I'm like, oh, I would suck as a teacher. Like, nobody wants to listen to me and that kind of stuff. And like I said, I kind of resented women for a long time. I always got treated like shit. They always hated me. They're like, oh, you never let anyone else win. You always win all the time. And I'm like, I don't know what to say when the chute opens. That's it. I can't say, oh, maybe I shouldn't ride near as good today.
Yeah.
It's a fight, and so
Yep.
I never thought of myself as a teacher. Like I would help anybody and give anyone the shirt off my back, a place to stay, whatever. But I really never expected to be this involved in. I actually love what I do right now, and it's
Hmm.
so freaking rewarding. Um, like what I get out of it. I'm exhausted mentally, emotionally, physically after a 2 day school, but I realize it's because I'm pouring so much of myself into these girls. I don't like I once the day's over, it's like a light switch. I'm like, holy crap, I'm tired. But I don't realize that while I'm in it because I'm in the moment. But um, some of the feedback from these girls and the appreciation and they're grateful and all the sweet things that they've said and done for me, like, it makes me cry just wanting to talk about it. Like, that
Yeah.
right there is the coolest feeling. Like, I finally found my peace. I rode
Yeah.
Bronx because I wanted to be confident and I kind of wanted guys to talk to me, but it didn't work. Nobody talked to me, and I did it because I was kind of in a bad spot, like with heartache, and I wasn't like depressed, but you go through life and you figuring out who you are, where you need to be, and you heartache after heartache, and things eat away at you. And when you're really empathetic and an emotional type person, you feel everything so much more intensely than a normal person would. Because my whole life you're like, oh, you cry for about every little thing, and I'm like, I don't. They just come out in tears, no matter what emotion it is, um, because I
Yeah.
feel everything so much more, and
Mhm.
I care, and I'm always wanting to be a better person and a good person, and to practice being a good person too and a good friend. But writing Bronx really helped distract a lot of the mental stuff that I was going through in my 20s. And so now that I found this new purpose, these teaching these schools, I don't need to ride Broncs anymore, like, if that makes sense. I love to, and I still enter. I don't need to, but I like to do it, and after I ride, I'm like, "Yeah, I don't need to do this anymore." Um, I lost a lot of that, I guess you could call fire, but it was more just like a drug. It's an addiction. You get addicted to feeling confident after every bronc ride. Or I got kind of smashed around, but I stood up and walked out. I got addicted to the toughness that those bucking horses were creating in my character. And but now that I found peace, I'm paying off my debt. I'm trying to get my own ranch. I'm about 2 years away from that. I started this school business where I'm giving back after spending so many years kind of hating the whole women's ranch bronc thing. Um, Now that I'm giving back and kind of and supporting them and giving them this avenue, I've realized how much I needed it in my life, and it's given me so much peace and purpose. It sounds really cliche um and kind of typed out, but it's just the truth.
Yeah, I don't think it sounds that way at all. I think
Yeah,
it's obvious to me that that's your passion, right? And I think regardless of whether you're religious or spiritual or any of that, like we're here, we're on this earth for a reason.
right.
And it just hearing you talk about it, like that's your reason. It's obvious to anybody
Right.
who has a conversation with you or looks at your Facebook page or and now who listens to this, like it's very obvious how passionate you are about this.
Yeah. And
And
I stuck because a lot of years and girls were like, "You're just a know-it-all. I didn't ask for your help. Like, quit helping me." And I'm like, that's where a lot of my resentment came from, and it took a lot of letting go to do that first women's school, but to see their faces and the confidence and they lit up and the talent that a lot of these girls had that nobody else gave them a chance to show, like, oh, that's what did it. It melted me. I'm like, this is so freaking cool, and I want to keep doing this because I mean, if not me, who else is doing it? There isn't really a place to go, and I want to be, not that I want to be the only one, but I want to be the one that they come to, because I'll do it safely and I know what to look for with equipment. I've seen every kind of wreck you can think of. I know what works and doesn't work. I know the horsemanship side of things, and all the connections and the respect that I've built over the years riding all over the country. Um, I can help more. I can help more girls than just my area. I can go anywhere. I can go international too, and help them because all of it is transferable.
Yeah.
So
And I think it takes, and I think it does take a woman to go and teach other women some.
mhm.
You know, like women could go to a man and learn ranch bronc riding, but it's a perspective, right?
Yes,
Like you have a different perspective on this than, you know, than a man would teaching. And you also know, I think sometimes maybe women are underestimated a little bit in their toughness,
mhm.
which is funny to me because we joked around about the having the babies. That's why we have babies.
All right,
Women have babies because we're freaking tough, right?
right, and that
Like
too.
right. And so, but I think that we're tough and men are tough in a different way, and I think that women get underestimated
Right,
in how competitive they are, how aggressive they can be, and how they kind of need an outlet for that. And it's not because
and
they're
yeah,
weird, it's because they're human beings,
yeah,
right? And I imagine you've probably got women that, like you said, you've got had women come that have never been on a horse, and they
right.
probably feel like they've got something to prove, you know, some level, something going on in their life or
Oh
something
yeah,
that they've got something to prove either to themselves or to somebody else, probably more to themselves. I can't imagine going and getting on a ranch bronc if you got something to prove to somebody else.
right. Well, and
But
I had in Cheney, or no, it wasn't Cheney. It was Ontario, Canada, which Ontario is a whole thing in itself. Like they don't have anything out there. They kind of do, but it's like very, very new. One girl's like, "Ah, I've never rode a horse before," and I'm like, "Oh my god, what?" And she goes, "Oh no, no, it's okay." She goes, "Look at it like this. I don't have any bad habits," and I'm like, "Oh my god, you're right. You really don't." She goes, "So everything you're teaching me is what I know," and I'm like, that perspective right there, I'd never even thought of it, and I looked at her and I'm like, you're so right. That was so cool to me, and she
yeah,
did so well. And even Lucia too. Lucia rode same thing, kind of heartache and all that emotional buildup, and she knows how to ride, right? She grew up
yeah,
eventing in that world, and she's got a good seat. And it took a lot of coaxing, but same thing. I'm like, Lucia, it's easy. If you can jump horses, you could ride bucking horses. A lot of really strong riders that are going right now are from English backgrounds. And I freaking love it when someone says, "Oh yeah, I ride English." I'm like, "Perfect. You're gonna do so good with this,"
yeah,
because it's transferable. It's the same thing. And the I remember Lucia's first bucking horse, and kind of after heartache, and same thing in Cheney, kind of after some heartache and stuff, and she goes, "That was the best release I've ever had in my life, like the
yeah,
best endorphin release ever." And I'm
yeah,
like, "Oh, I know the feeling." And that's the feeling that we chase when we say bucking horses are a drug. This is what we mean. And it has saved a lot of people from doing bad things and drugs and alcohol and stuff like that. It gives them
mm,
something to chase, that goal to chase, however small it is. And a lot of girls, this is my favorite part that I teach before we ride broncs, is I tell them this school is going to show you exactly who you are. When you hit that ground, that's when you're going to know, do you need a minute? Are you going to stand up and be mad? Are you going to stand up and fight? You're going to stand up, walk back to the chutes, and then sit down and like take it all in. Like it, bucking horses will show you who you truly are, what you're made of. And I tell a lot of them girls, I want everyone to wake up and be a grizzly bear. Like this is a whole different game. You're gonna meet a version of you that you didn't know existed, and that is probably one of my favorite things after these schools, because the first day is always rough, right? It's a lot of information to take in, and then we get on the first bronc, and so then they sleep on it and soak it all in, and the next day it's all right, what do we learn? You guys doing good. And then the next day, the second day, it's always the best because they come back hungry and fighting and craving it, and they become addicted to it in just one day, because it's just something. Uh, it's something powerful to get on the back of a bucking horse and not control it and just go with it. You have to let go, um, yourself, and let it happen, because a lot of people want to pull back, or make him stop or slow him down, and it takes a certain kind of person to let that horse buck and just go with him, and not fight him. So it's character building doing these schools. I love seeing these girls grow and go down the road and enter these rodeos and get excited and build friendships and meet people that they would never have met on their own if it wasn't for this. And the same thing with me too. I wouldn't know half of these people in my life if it wasn't for rodeo in one way or another. I mean, horses alone builds a lot of friendships, but rodeo is something entirely different. You might see each other once a year and you're best friends and your family, and you would do anything for them. But if you look back, you're like, I really actually don't know you. We've
Yeah.
met times in 5
Yeah.
years, right? But you're my best friend, and it's so damn cool to be able to provide that opportunity and create those friendships and travel partners. I never had a travel partner. Um, because I'd always on my own, and I'd drive back at night, and I went hard at it and nobody kept up, and I kind of just didn't want them anyway because I liked doing things on my own time. Um, there's a couple times I really wanted travel partners, but it just never suited, my path, I suppose. But yeah, it's I could go on forever about this kind of stuff. And that right there was another reason why I'm like, screw it, I'm just gonna start a business, because I already talk about bucking horses every day, all the time. I'll never quit. Like, I don't mind repeating myself. And then I'm like, well, I'm already doing this all the time. I might as well just do it, as a business to make things easier on my life. And people are like, "Oh, I don't want to bug you," and I'm like, "Oh, no, 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 you're not bugging me. I literally do this every day anyway, so like, go for it." And it's really cool to get that kind of feedback from them. That they're like, "It's so cool. You could talk about Bronx all the time and not get bored." I'm like, "It was my life for 10 years, and it still is, and I'm still part of it, and I don't ever see myself quitting." So that's kind of cool what it
Yeah.
does to you.
Yeah, I remember when Lucia was talking about going to that school and going down there and then, I've been friends of hers for a while. Um and kind of have been friends with her through a lot of that heartache and stuff. And um I think there was a big change in her when she came back from that,
Oh yeah.
and I bet that there's a big change in a lot of people, not just trying to be picking on Lucia or anything. She'll have her chance to tell her story on here. She's going to come on here too.
That's
Um,
awesome.
but but I just can't even imagine like the level of confidence that these gals that how they level up
Hmm.
coming in there, and then like you say, the second day, when it's all over, like look what they just did. I mean, it's pretty
Yeah.
badass,
Yeah.
right? Like I can go get on my horse and go ride around on the trails and chase cows and run around barrels really fast and do all that stuff. And I'll tell you what, if a horse tries to buck me off, the first thing I want to do is tell him to knock it off.
Right, yeah. And
So
that's what's cool about it, is because we are trained.
that's a whole thing.
Yeah, we're trained to, don't let this horse buck, don't let him buck, don't let him buck. And it is the most natural,
Yeah,
expressive way for that horse to release its emotions, and some of them just like it too.
yeah,
Rodeo horses, they like it. Obviously, it's why
yeah,
they do it. And you can't make that horse do anything they don't want to do at all. If they don't want to buck, there's plenty of videos that show a horse walking out of the chute and not performing. If they don't want to, they will not do it,
right.
which is the cool thing. But it goes against everything we're taught when we're training and riding horses. You don't let them
Yeah,
do that because it's undesirable, but it's undesirable in the human world, not his world. And so to teach these girls that you have to let him buck and you just maintain your position, and you go both come together in this unity, that's what makes a bronc ride. Like, that's what a judge looks for. But yeah, it's crazy how that everything is directly related to one another in some way. Um, but yeah, Lucia's she's. I remember the first thing she said to me after she got up. She goes, "Oh God, I needed that." um, like sometimes we need to physically get hurt to get over
Yeah.
some emotional and mental things too. And
Yep.
another part of what I got addicted to was not being hurt, but um the bruising and stuff, and knowing that, oh, I'm okay, I'm gonna make it,
Yep.
I'm fine. Or even all the bones that I've broke, I'm like, nope, I know how to handle this, I know how to fix it, and it's only gonna make me better. And the discipline that comes with letting your body heal, um until the next one, and that kind of stuff was addicting to me too. I like the discipline behind it, because you only get one chance to heal right,
Yeah.
correctly, and one good shot. And if you don't, then makes it harder on your life, going down the road. But if you heal correctly the first time, you can go back at it without missing a beat. And that's exactly what I did. I broke both my ankles the same weekend, my collarbone and my lung, broke my arm in half. I'm missing a rib on one side, and every single time I went right back at it, never missed a beat. Um, but it's just really cool what that physical toughness will do for your character as well, because you can limp around and milk your wounds, or you can take the time, let your body heal, and then come back and do it again. And then there's the mental aspect behind it too. Like, how are you going to let this affect you mentally? And I tell all these girls too, rodeo is a roller coaster between mental, emotional, and physical abilities. You might be high on life and riding really good, but you broke your arm. You might be in the best physical shape you've ever had in your life, but mentally you are psyching yourself out every single rodeo. Or maybe emotionally you and a guy just broke up, um and it comes out and that's the best you've ever rode, because all that emotion had to go
Because
somewhere.
you're pissed.
which which was a lot of my reasoning for
Yep.
writing as good as I did here and there, is I channeled those emotions into my writing. I let it all out, and it became essentially like a gym to me, what it does for some people who go to a gym. So
Yeah.
I just paid a lot more for mine and traveled
Yeah.
farther. So
Well, a lot of people too will have like a wreck with a horse and break a rib or puncture a lung or do, break a leg or do something, getting bad wrecks and get real hurt.
mhm,
And then their confidence is completely gone. And then
right,
then they want to choke up, and then they're causing even more wrecks for themselves. And
right.
I'm guilty of that too, like
It's
um
human nature.
it's
You're
human
just
nature, yeah. And so when you're doing, like you say, like with what you're doing, you got to go with that horse, and you're either going to get back on it or you're just going to be done,
right.
right? So like the confidence piece, mentally, that's got to be like really tough thing to do, to go get back on one of those horses after you got
Oh
beat up,
yeah.
more than a bruise, but like, if you get in a big wreck with a horse, a lot of
hmm
people hang it up forever, when
Oh,
they
oh
do that.
yeah.
So,
Yeah, and that's
and I'm
I
not
teach
judging
a
that.
lot
I
of
can't, I wouldn't blame a person for doing that, but,
right.
um,
I
but
teach
it's a
that
different
too.
breed. I think the rodeo is it's just a different breed.
Right.
It really is.
And it'll make you or it'll break you for sure. And I teach a lot about coming back from injuries and stuff like that too. And a lot of the time they just they just have it they just have to get that first one back out,
Yep.
because once that first one's done, yeah, they bucked off 2 seconds, whatever. Then the next one, they're like, okay, I'm back now. Like,
Yeah.
sometimes you just got to go through the motions and get it out of the way so that you can come back and get to work.
Yeah.
I don't always suggest not trying every single horse you get on, but sometimes you just have to just do it and nod. And if you don't try, okay,
Yeah.
that's your one freebie. Now the next one, get to work, kind of thing. So there was a couple girls that I've taught this year that went through that, and after that first one back, they just, all right, they're like, okay, shake it off, got it out of my way, we're done, like, moving on. And that's really cool to see that kind of character growth too. But there's a lot of times I went through the motions and just let my muscle memory take over. And I've gotten by a lot with muscle memory, which, I worked hard for that, and um until I was mentally ready and stuff like that. I don't suggest it. It takes a special kind of person, but um sometimes you go through the motions and fake it till you make it, and then once you make it, it you're good, and then you're back to being who you are again.
Yeah. I think there's no substitute. And I'm looking at my phone because I'm going back to some notes. Like there's no substitute for like you were talking about muscle memory and just that there's no way you're going to get that without just experience and just having your ass in the saddle.
Yeah.
And I've had some people on here, like some pretty top barrel racers from this, from locally, but also, nationally, doing clinics all over the United States. And they'll say the same thing. It's just like a sheer number of horses and knowing that they're all different and kind of having that feel. Just
Mhm.
time in the saddle is just
Oh yeah.
the best
Oh, for
teacher.
sure.
Yeah.
And I mean, heck, just a couple months ago, I got on an easy, easy, easy horse. And I was overriding this thing because I wanted to win. I wanted to cover so badly that this little shit felt me up and lawn darted me off the side. He cut so hard and went back to the chutes. I fell off, and everyone was like, "What the hell?" I'm like, "Don't, just don't." I can't. It was so
Yeah.
embarrassing.
Yeah.
So even though I've got the muscle memory and I've got the experience and the number, it doesn't matter. A horse is a horse, and it'll fill you up, and everything that you're going through, they know. Um, and it doesn't matter how much experience you have. Even the wolves get bucked off too. It's just part of it.
Yeah.
And I could beat myself up over it all I want, but the next day it's a different horse, and it's a different
Right.
attitude. And probably the my most favorite thing that really helped uh, change me was I went to a school in Texas that Kayla Muzzle was teaching with some other folks, and she's a female saddle bronc rider from Canada. Um, she said, because I would carry this with me to every single rodeo, like all the buck offs, the disappointment, the hating myself because I'm better than this, the not good enough, the all the things. She said that you got to find a way to let it go, right? Because you cannot carry that with you to every single rodeo. It's like dragging dead bodies around. It's pointless. All it does is hurt you. Um, and so she kind of helped me, and she goes, you can let it all out, be mad all you want the day that it's happening, all night, whatever. But when you go to sleep, and you wake up, it's done. It's over. It's a new day. Be better and pick one thing to change or one thing to focus on until all the pieces come together. And it really helped me get over a lot of my emotional um, problems that I was carrying with me everywhere from rodeo to rodeo about my performance. And because I have such a high drive to be better all the time that I can't shut it off. And if I didn't figure out a way to channel that, and use it to help myself, it was going to destroy me. And that was something that stuck with me forever. But you can't get better unless you fail over and over and over again. And if you want to quit after you fail, it's totally fine too. Um, but if you want to be better, you gotta find your own way to let shit go and move on, and just keep doing it until it becomes muscle memory and second nature. So
Yeah.
that was pretty cool.
Yeah. That's a good lesson and doesn't matter like what area you're in, whatever your profession is. If you Yeah, I'm a teacher, like I teach high school. I taught at the college. I teach math. And I just say like if you're not making a mistake, you're not learning.
Mhm.
If you're trying to protect all the time, always doing things right and never making a mistake, you'll never get better. You're just gonna stay the same. You're never gonna like do anything difficult or hard. Um,
Mhm.
and then you're just gonna be kind of one of everybody else.
Right.
So it just depends on what you're passionate about and what you want to go, you know,
Mhm.
learn from. Um, so I think didn't you just go to Australia?
I
I
did,
thought I
yes.
saw that.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. My intention was to teach a school there, but not knowing, I had friends there and whatnot, but I didn't have the right connections and everything. And the timing didn't work out with the bucking horses between these rodeos, and so it didn't work out. So it ended up being more of a personal trip, but I did get to talk to a few girls and kind of help them out and stuff like that, and it was really great. Bummed it didn't work out with the school type of thing, but it was okay. It wasn't. I entered a few rodeos there. I was trying to make it a school and a personal trip because I've always wanted to go there and ride a bucking horse
Yeah.
there and cross that off. But um, it's not like I can't come back, I'm sure, and
Yeah.
or help organize something. Their seasons are different from ours, so it's summer there right now, and um,
Well,
that,
perfect.
that
Go get on a plane.
I know, right?
Get
Just
down
avoid
there. I
winter,
know. I know so
avoid
many
winter
people in
completely.
Arizona right now. I'm just like,
Yeah,
oh, I'm so mad. We got
yeah,
mud and rain, and it's
right.
really, the weather's really rude here.
But Australia is so freaking cool, and the women's Ranch Bronx is so new there too. Like they're working so hard um to be seen with respect and earn their spot there and keep the drama out of it and stuff like that. Like these girls are gritty and they want to ride, and I mean hell they ride bulls and cows everywhere. Like they could ride bucking horses, right? And there was the sweetest damn people I've ever met in my life. I loved it there so much.
Oh,
Um, oh, I'd love to go back. It's so expensive. Uh,
yeah, I bet.
yeah, that sucked, but
Yeah.
it was great, and I would not trade those memories for anything.
Yeah. Well, who knows what kind of groundwork you laid, like you said, go down there and teach a couple schools while you're down there again. And
I would love to go back.
you
Yeah,
never know. You never know what kind of seeds you're planting when you're doing that kind of stuff. So,
yeah. I ain't afraid to travel either. It's a bit of a plane ride across the ocean, but oh,
yeah.
it's so worth it.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I have a couple other questions. How are the horses different? First of all, like from Saddle Bronc just straight across to the Ranch Broncs. Are the horses different? Are they still doing those like draft crosses with the Ranch Broncs? Are they
Um,
more like,
well, a lot of Ranch Broncs are typically either young colts, right? Or they're kind of old campaigners that have the same trip every time, or they're kind of hoppers or stuff like that. The horses that buck consistently, the stuff that you see at the NFR, they're every single jump they're kicking above their hocks and just nice and strong and flashy and TV
right,
bucking.
right,
That style. Those are the saddle broncs, the barebacks that you kind of want to see. They have really good timing, really good
right,
rhythm because in that saddle bronc saddle is perfected um, ranch bronc riding, right? It's the art form of ranch broncs. Ranch broncs are traditionally wild. They're changing directions. The horses that kind of scream when they buck or stuff like that. Ranch Bronc is supposed to be the stuff that you would see at Buffalo Bill's Wild West show, or it's supposed to simulate what these ranches had to do to survive. In the late 1800s, 1900s, to on the ranch, and a lot of the times that fell to the wife too, and the husband was off doing whatever. And a woman would, start the horse and, ride the buck out of him, stuff like that. And so it's supposed to simulate everyday working ranch life. And that's where the tradition comes from and why I love the sport so much because there's so much history involved in it and kind of drives me nuts when I see a lot of comments about, oh, well, if you women want respect, you need to ride with one hand like the guy does. And I'm like, it's not even the same sport. It's all you see is the horse. You don't see the equipment. It's literally two different styles of riding. Um, and saddle bronc is perfected ranch bronc riding, and the saddle sits differently on the horse's back to pick up that timing. Um, Versus our ranch saddles, we're kind of behind their shoulder like an everyday broke horse, right? And so the horse has a better advantage than the rider does. Saddle bronc riders have every advantage you can get, and that's the big difference there. Obviously, we have a horn and a rope or a night latch, and saddle broncs there's nothing there, just your stirrups that swing really, really free.
Mhm.
But I mean, the horses are different. Yes, you
Yeah,
gotta. There is a certain caliber of horse you want for saddle bronc and bareback because that's what
sure.
um, it helps the rider out in their event too. And ranch broncs are traditionally known as either colts or kind of old campaigners or low level stock. There are some horses or contractors that will buck their horses between saddle bronc, bareback, and ranch bronc. They'll intermix them into the ranch bronc event and not care, but the contractors know that horse and know what they can do and what they like. And very rarely do you see bareback horses in the ranch bronc riding because we ride with halters. Um, Sometimes they'll do it and they'll just say put your rein around their neck, don't even use a halter. So there's some horses that go back and forth between events too. Just all depends on the horse and where you're at and who owns them.
Hmm. Hmm.
And some
Yeah.
guys that flat refuse to buck their saddle bronc horses in a ranch bronc because that's they're no, you just don't do that.
Right. They're like, what is this?
No, yeah.
Yeah. So like as far as like your score and how the judges score, I know like with the saddle bronc, there's the timing, there's beating up the horse's front feet to the ground with your spur to the shoulder, there all that timing, that flash.
Hmm.
And so and I've seen like if you get a saddle bronc horse that wants to get like super ratty and twisty and just nuts, like you don't score as high on that
Right.
horse in the saddle
Yep.
broncs. Now
Exactly.
in the ranch broncs, do you want to draw a horse that is going to throw nasty stuff at you, or is there still a
Well,
little bit of that pizzazz and style that
yeah. That's gonna be dependent on your region, on where you're at. In the
okay.
southern states, I've seen personally they'd rather them kind of go out straight and just flat buck. And I've seen out west where some rodeos they really like it because it's crowd pleasing, it's flashy, and they don't know much different. And
Yeah.
usually a cowboy pull his hat down and it looks visually cool. And I've seen some rodeos out here where they're like, nah, that's 60 points, like re-ride. So it really depends on where you're at. It's so variable
Huh.
too because I've seen some of those win it with an 85, and I've seen some of them get dead last with a 60 on a horse like that. So there's not even a good answer for it.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that makes it tough though as a competitor, right? Because do you got to just show up at the rodeo and know who the judges are, or like kind of know
Yeah,
what they're
but
looking for? I
over
mean, yeah,
time you kind of get to know certain judges do certain rodeos and stuff like
yeah,
that, and word of mouth. And you can dang sure ask the judge before the rodeo, like, hey, what do you kind of want to see here? It's
yeah,
not very common for us rough stock riders to do that because in a lot of outside people's eyes they think you're buying the judge or buttering him up or trying to fix your score before it starts. But you very well could. There's no rule against it, and some
right,
judges might take it as an insult, or some of them might you know talk to you and help you out. Or I tend to do it afterwards, like,
yeah,
hey, what did you think of that, or what can I do to improve on? Because I mean, if I want to get better as a rider, I'll ask a judge too. I'll ask the pickup man because they
right,
see it from a different perspective. The judge sees it from a different view. I'll ask people behind the chutes. I don't just get one opinion because every angle they see something different. Um, but yeah, you could ask a judge if it just kind of same thing. It could go either way. It's kind
yeah,
of your discretion there.
kind of a risk.
Read the energy in the room. Like if they're
Yeah,
kind of grumpy and looking like they don't want to talk, I probably don't go talk to them. But
right,
it really
yeah.
depends.
Yeah. Now,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I just don't know, so I'm just asking, questions about that because I just don't have a lot of experience with the Ranch Bronx. Is there a mark out rule with the
No, there's no
okay.
no rule. You sure can for extra points and stuff if you'd like. Not all judges will give that. It's dependent on where you go to, but there's
Hmm.
no rule like saddle broncs. No, you just ride them as you can as long as you're hanging on with your bronc rein. It doesn't matter how you ride it.
Yeah. Have you noticed any stock contractors? do they bring different horses for the women's Ranch Bronc versus the men's Ranch Bronc,
I,
or is that starting to kind of change a little? Like,
yeah,
because you know, like we said, that women just physically aren't as strong as the men.
right. And nobody wants to see women get hurt, right? For the most part, these contractors are like, no, we don't want to have a women's ranch bronc. Like, I don't want to see them get hurt in front of me, not on my horse. So there's still that element of I don't know what the right word is. Like, they're still kind of worried about it, that stereotype, and
We'll call it chivalry.
yeah, they don't want to be responsible for that, which I absolutely
Yep.
understand. And but there is quite a few that do bring women like low caliber horses that, which it sucks that we're classified as, we need special horses, but it's just the way it is. It's life, and I'm not a feminist. Like, you can, whatever. If you want to ride saddle broncs at the NFR, go for it. I will scream in the bar TV. Like, um,
Yeah.
I'm not against it at all. It's just the way that it is right now. And if we want to
Hmm.
change that, we have to create pressure and demand. But for right now, while we're learning and creating the respect, this is just what we need. Because once we start dominating these lower horses, and even these lower ones, it still takes a lot out of you to ride them. You still have to ride no matter what.
Well, yeah, the
But
1,200 pound
until
horse
you
is
yeah, until you are practiced and out riding and outperforming these lower level horses, then you can start kind of bumping up and maybe ride in the open, or ask or go to a practice pen and say, "Hey, I want like this kind of a horse now. I want to start getting, more challenging horses." Um, but it's, in my opinion, it's just the way it needs to be, and it's kind of what is happening currently right now. Is when I'm doing these schools, these guys are asking me, "What kind of horses do you want?" And so I'm already putting it out there in their ears what they need to be looking for, because for the longest time, I couldn't hardly find a practice pen with stuff that we call confidence boosters, right? These crow hoppers and stuff like that. These guys just sell them. They don't want to feed these horses that don't get these guys bucked off at rodeos. That's not what makes them money. But now I see the trend going backwards. Like, now they're starting to keep these horses around because these girls are creating pressure and demand for these contractors to start getting these horses, because now they're getting paid to have a women's event and to have um, these horses for like high school kids to get onto. It's not, these young kids can ride a women's horse. It's not, our horses. It's just what we would call a low level horse.
sure.
In 16, 17, 18, maybe 19 point horses, depending on how strong he is. But yeah, I'm starting to see more demand for them type of horses. And now that we're getting those, we're going to start seeing more demand for these rodeos to put on these women's events for them to come compete at.
Hmm.
Like, then this is what I've been trying to build for 3 years.
Yeah.
And it's just great, because rodeo is huge, but it's also a small world too. Um,
Right.
so word of mouth goes a long ways.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds like it is more of like a supply and demand thing versus anything else. Like these stock contractors have little pretty narrow margins anyway, you
Right,
know, and I'm sure at first they're probably like, well, they can just ride what we got on the trailer.
right, right.
And now, you know, people are like, oh, this is a thing, and it's kind of fun to watch this Ranch Bronc riding
Oh yeah.
and you know, and so yeah, so just
There's
the
a lot
more
of
that this
contractors that they want to take care of us. They do, because
sure.
like I said, they don't want to see us get hurt, right?
Yeah,
And it happens. That's the risk we take. That's why we sign waivers. But
yeah,
they still will. Most of them are doing what they can to help. To
yeah.
help. They don't want that on their conscience.
I don't think they want to see anybody get hurt. It's, you know, no matter male or female.
The good ones don't want to see
Yeah,
that. I do know a few that are pretty sneaky that way, but you avoid them, and then if they don't have people entering their rodeos or coming to their practice or making these horses pay for themselves, they're going to start rethinking their behaviors, and the stock that they're allowing these kids to get on that they know isn't appropriate. So if they don't get
right,
contracted for as many rodeos as someone else because they're being untruthful, then that's on them, and that creates a demand for him, for that person to change and be better and stuff like that. So so it goes both ways. Yeah, he might, there's some guys that kind of want to see everyone get bucked off and he makes all this money, and then the rodeo's like, hey, you gotta like bring easier horses. We want to see some people cover and win, right? That's the whole point.
Right. Because the crowd, I mean, the
Yeah,
money
the
maker is
crowd.
the people paying to get in and watch this rodeo that they go to once a
Right.
year,
It's
and they
yeah.
love to see people ride.
Right, and they love a good buck off too, but there's a
Right.
balance. So it's
Yep.
really cool to see all these moving parts between the production, the crowd, the pressure on the contractor, the contestants, all these working pieces coming together and creating their own supply and demand with each other,
Hmm.
based on what's happening right now. So it's just really cool to understand this on so many different levels besides just being behind the chute and knowing these bucking horses. I know how all the other pieces fit,
Yeah.
and what to do to change things, and like create this pressure that I'm creating by doing these women's schools. Now everybody wants to start kind of coming in and doing this. So everything is happening exactly how I wanted it to, because you can throw everything into war, but you're probably not going to last long. And I want this to last. I long after I'm gone, I want hundreds of women to go down the road and keep passing this knowledge on. I don't want it to end with me. That would be
Yeah.
very selfish of me, and I don't want to be like that.
Yeah. 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 Let's see. I want to see if I got a. Oh, tell me about this TV show. I didn't know about a TV show.
So
What
this
was the
was
TV? What's the TV show about?
It so it follows about five of us girls riding bucking horses all over Texas. The last year that we did it, we contracted with the PBR tour, the Velocity tour on the East Coast. So we traveled to the East Coast and did that. I I didn't like it because the if you understand a bull arena versus a bucking horse arena, they cut the arena in half for bulls because bulls don't travel with that forward motion like a horse does. So these bucking horses only had about 4 or 5 seconds to make their case before they hit the fence, turn left or right, and then get picked up by the pickup man. So honestly, we weren't even riding them for 8 seconds. It felt like the last half of it was just them kind of running to the pickup man to get picked up, and so it was great for the professional appeal. But the chutes were cramped. They weren't set for horses. All the bull riders were either scary or they were like, what is happening? We don't know what you're doing or why you're here. Like, why is there horses here? Half of them are scared of horses, so they won't even help you. It was a really cool experience, to showcase ranch bronc riding and then to showcase it as a woman too. The show was fun, and like any TV anything, there's obvious drama involved with it, and which I never cared for, but um it's just part of it, and it's how
It's
rodeo goes
ratings.
too. There's drama in rodeo as much as anything else, any other
Oh
sport.
my God,
So
yes.
it was really great. I did like it. I liked that I was able to represent ranch bronc riding the way I grew up, understanding it too, and passing that along, and helping them girls out when they not all of them asked for my help, and I learned that too, that um I can't force my opinions on people. They have to ask. And so that was a character growth for me as well. But I did enjoy it. It, comes with your ups and downs, but it was fun.
Hmm.
COVID
What was
ruined
it?
it.
What COVID ruined it? Shut
Yeah,
it down?
yeah, pretty much. Well, when COVID happened, they didn't renew it, so and then they sold out and stuff like that, so it just kind of fell apart. But
Did it
that's why,
ever get aired?
yeah, oh yeah, it was on TV. Yeah,
What
the
was it?
network.
What's the name of?
So the show is called Cowgirls. It's really original. A really original name. But
Yeah.
it was on Dish. Ride TV is what it was called. And they're
Okay.
no longer a network, but
Okay.
yeah, COVID ruined everything. But
Yeah.
yeah. So that TV show is what really highlighted, like, a lot of women have told me, "Oh my god, I didn't know women could ride bucking horses, and I'm like, it's the same mentality that I had. I didn't know it either. And so when that TV show aired, it really set in motion the women's ranch bronc riding too. It really was a pivotal moment in the last 10 years that changed things. So I am grateful to it for that, for highlighting the sport and showing that women can do it and do it with grace and grit, and um, that it's not just, you know, for guys too. That there is a history behind this. That women have been riding ranch broncs for hundreds of years.
Yeah. Yeah. That's awesome. Um, okay. So, and then the other thing that you kind of said, and you said it early on, that sort of struck me, and it struck a chord with me because I think I'm really similar in this regard, is like I moved around a lot when I was a kid too. So your dad was in the Navy?
Hmm.
Okay. And so did you move a lot because you were in the military?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Hence the California, Washington.
Yeah.
And he's from New York too, so I
Yeah.
mean, I've family everywhere.
Yeah. Do you feel like that experience as a child, like being able to just like integrate yourself somewhere new, do you think that contributed at all to like your sort of nomadic,
Oh,
like
oh yeah.
that's fine, I'll go down the road and I'll rodeo and that's just kind of like how it
Oh
is.
yeah, that was definitely bred into me early. That, and my mom's the same way. She loves to travel, so there's a genetic component to it as well, I'm sure. But yeah, I can adapt and make any place a home. And um, I mean, and I've got loads of stories about running off and seeing what's over here, what's over there, and just being in the moment and not realizing where I was or how long I'd been gone. Um, so a lot of that is part of who I am. That traveling around um, and just loving being in a new place all the time. Like I very rarely stayed in one place for more than a year in my 20s. Right now, where I'm at in Billings, I've been here for going on 7 years, and it's the longest I've stayed in one spot outside of college. I went to college in Dillon, and I lived there for 5 years. I graduated in 15. So besides Dillon, this is the longest I've stayed, and I do like this area. I'm probably going to settle here, and this is where I want to try to buy a place and stuff like that. But yeah, a lot of how I grew up influenced how I lived in college, and what I did with rodeo too. Because now I'm like I want a home to come back to. I still love to travel, but I like coming back to a place as well. Where before I was like, I'll sleep in my truck, and now I'm like, I'll do it if I have to, but I don't want to. So that's gone now. I don't have that feeling anymore. But
Yeah. You got all that out.
it's all, yeah, yeah. It's
Yeah.
crazy. It's
Uh,
crazy what turning 30 does. It was literally a switch in my brain. I'm like, well, I'm gonna pay off my debt. And before I was totally fine not doing it. So it was crazy. I don't know what it was about that 30 mark. It really bothered me that I needed to get my life together and I wanted to be different. I would, 10 years of living like a rodeo bum, and not I made money but not enough. I'm damn sure never kept track of the money, but I'm sure if I did, it wouldn't look good.
yeah.
But I did end up writing down every single bucking horse I've ever been on in a book, and I still do it. I think I'm right under. I'm almost at the 500 mark. So
Wow.
I did
And seriously, like,
1,000 before I quit, but I doubt I'll get to 1,000 now. So
yeah. But what a life. Who can say that they just like went down the road, you know? I mean, that's what's so special to me about people that I know that have rodeoed. And they just like it's just such a different breed of person, really. And
right,
even within that, they're different breeds of person people in rodeo, but just to say that you got to have that experience in your life where you're just like, well, I'll sleep in my truck's no big deal. I have
yeah,
like, I don't even know how I'm going to put gas in my truck and whatever,
uh, yeah,
but obviously you figured it out,
yeah,
you
and that
know?
that was the cool thing about how I lived too, because I didn't understand what it was doing to my character. I was always had the mentality, I'll figure it out. I'll always figure out a way. There is always a way. And there's always a reason for everything. I believed in that 100%, um, that the universe would take care of me or help me or point me where I needed to be. And now looking back, I understand everything. Like, that it was shaping me to be this person right now. Because I'm the happiest I've been in a long time right now. And um, but yeah, that I'll figure it out mentality is pretty rare. I've noticed, and because you have to trust the uncertainty, you have to believe in yourself, and you have to trust that things will just work out the way it's supposed to. And then if it doesn't work out, then it works out because that's what was supposed to happen. But yeah, it's a really different care personality trait, I suppose. You don't see it very much.
Yeah. Yeah, I see it. I think I see it more, and maybe my vision is tainted just because I just grew up with in rodeo and a bunch of friends and family and stuff that did it. But I feel like I see that way more in that profession than
Oh, and
any
road.
other sport
Yeah, yeah.
because you don't get a contract. You don't you've got to go win or you're just going home.
It's
Hopefully
all
you got enough money to get home.
Oh man, I have plenty of stories about going to the rodeo with no money to go home. And I don't suggest it at all. It is absolutely nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But it did make me force me to ride
Yep.
better, and I did win money to go home, but
Yeah.
I've done it twice and it was just insane
But the
because it's
level of pressure.
life or death. This is it.
Yeah.
You get one shot, and that pressure, that intense pressure that you feel, even just competing, knowing you can go home, that pressure can make or break a person too. And I learned this about myself because a lot of growing up in your 20s is learning who you are,
Yes.
is that I do really well under pressure. I didn't know that about myself, but that's what rodeo taught me too. And I see that with a lot of rodeo people. It's just there's just something about rodeo that creates just awesome people. Really. I mean, yeah, we have bad apples here and there, but what doesn't and who doesn't, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. There's a lot of, well, that just happened. Okay, now what are we gonna do about it?
Yeah.
Yeah, for
Mhm.
sure. For sure. So yeah, okay. So now tell me what's like now what are you gonna do? What's next?
2025, and I try to do a school in different areas all the time so I can cater to everybody, right? And so last year it was kind of it just the way it happened was mostly on the west side, and this year I'll be in Pennsylvania, Kentucky. Um I'll be in Texas 3 times. I'll be in Pennsylvania at least another time, maybe 2. Um and I need to go to Nevada too. I've had a lot of demand for Nevada, and that'll kind of take care of Idaho and Utah and stuff like that. And so I'm trying to keep myself spread out and balanced so I'm not just one side over the other. And I'll go back to Canada a couple times, and um I would really like to go back to Belgium too. I did teach a school in Belgium, and that
Oh
was
wow.
that was awesome. I loved it there, and people are so great. I only got to spend 2 days there when I did the school and had to fly back immediately, so it wasn't long enough, and I wanna go back now. So I might try for that, I haven't decided yet. So 25 is gonna be freaking awesome. I've got way more schools than I did last year, and last year I did, I think, 8, which for me is quite a bit because I kind of cram them all into the spring before horses are booked for rodeos and everyone's too busy and stuff like that. And then in the fall, I try to do some before I get busy because I work sale yards here and ride a lot of outside colts. And then in the fall, I'm 5 days a week, so I can't leave Friday, do 2 day school, then travel Monday. Versus in the spring, we go back to 3 days a week, and so I can travel more. So my life is very seasonal, which again I love apparently, and I never get burnt out too. It's always something different. But so I do a lot in the spring and in the fall, and it keeps everything kind of. I enjoy it. You know, I can still make money and I don't get behind and stuff like that. I've really balanced my life out, but 25 it should be pretty dang cool because I'm meeting a lot of these East Coast girls that I had no idea they did Ranch Broncs over there either. So this is I'm tapping into a whole new area, a whole new region that I'm so excited about. Because they're hungry for it. They just don't have the knowledge. And the same thing, if I can give them that knowledge and they crave it and they want it and they're respectable and they want to listen and learn, then hell yeah, I'm all for it. So it's pretty dang great. Versus a lot of people are like, oh, why would you go out there? They don't even have the right kind of equipment. And I'm like, well, then teach them, then show them.
Right.
Like, what's
Yep.
I think it's more rude to turn your back than it is to put a little bit of effort into it and show them, because then same thing for every 10 people that I teach, they'll tell and teach one, and 20 turns to 40 and 40 turns to 80. So that's I'll swear by that mentality, and I joke a lot about it, but I'm gonna go for world domination with this. I want to teach everybody in every state. So
I believe you'll do it. And I
that's
look
my
forward to
goal.
watching you do it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's my big goal.
Good for you. That's awesome. So if somebody wants to look up your Ranch Bronc clinic school dates, where do they go?
So that Facebook page I created, that Western Women's Ranch Bronc,
Okay.
I'm always gonna post and pin at the top all the current confirmed dates and schools that I've got. So, and then once the school's over, I'll unpin it and move on with the next one. But everything that's currently happening confirmed is always at the top of the page too. And I post in there a lot of rodeos that have women's ranch broncs that I personally know is the right caliber for them. I'll never post or share a rodeo that I've either never been to or don't know the contractor, or in my opinion, is safe for these girls to go to. So I'll always try to share that kind of stuff. I can't always pin it, but um, I'll try to share that information as well. And I make little TikTok reels that probably suck, but I don't know what else to do with my iPhone. Because videography is a whole new world that I am obsessed with. I want to hire one everywhere I go, but they are so expensive, and I get it. But eventually I'm going to start growing that and getting more like professional type videos to really highlight and show these girls and all the try and grit that they have, because I think it's badass and I want the world to see it too. um my favorite thing that I was told, I went to a Gary LeFew bull riding school to watch. I wasn't entered in it because I don't do bulls. I've rode three. I don't like it. um
Yeah, I don't like bulls. I don't even like chasing them out of an arena. I got a whole story about that.
Yeah. He said, "Try will find ability." And I absolutely love that quote, because it doesn't matter if you don't have the skills or the experience or you grow up in it. If you try hard enough all the time, you will become talented. You will have the ability and the skill set and the experience, because I didn't grow up in this at all. I put myself in it. I learned, I got my ass chewed, I made mistakes. I did all the things. And that has forever stuck with me. I absolutely love that quote. And it helps a lot of these girls too. It's short and sweet, easy to remember, and it's so powerful. It means so much.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah.
I wrote that down.
No, I love it. I want to use that quote everywhere I go. But
Yeah,
I will teach anybody who tries. If you don't try, I can't help you. And if you want
right.
to learn and be better, I'm all for it.
Yep. I couldn't agree more. Well, on that note, do you have anything else you wanted to share? Do you feel like you got your story out there?
Oh, and I feel bad. Like I don't mind talking about any of this kind of stuff. I feel, and I had to come to terms with the whole imposter syndrome thing too. And then now this year, like every year I go through a different emotion, right? Like this year I feel really braggy. I feel cocky and arrogant, and I'm like, no, I know I have what I have, but I get I catch myself wanting to be humble and dial it back, and I'm like, don't cut yourself short. Like it's okay to be this way, but so it's same thing, but I'm gonna have to accept it because it's gonna come out here in a month. But in 2025 here in February, I you might have seen it, but I got nominated and inducted into the Montana Cowboy Hall of Fame. So that's happening.
Oh
and
my gosh.
and I haven't my brain will not let me process it right now. And I know when I actually get there, it's gonna hit me really hard. So I'm like, great, thanks, brain. Like trying to accept it in my head because it's the I'm not good enough yet. I'm too young. All these guys that actually get inducted are in their 70s and 80s, and they've had a lifetime of accomplishments and stories. And I'm like, I was like, no, you have too. And I'm like, but I know, but it's not enough. And so I'm that's that drive that I've got where I'm want to do better. I want to do more. I'm not enough yet. Like I'm not done. I haven't done all the things I want to do, but I know all the things that I have done in just the last 10 years is an entire lifetime. But um so like that's a whole ass other thing that I'm trying to process. But that is going to happen, and I mean that's going to come out here pretty soon. I wasn't sure if you'd seen that yet or not.
I hadn't seen that yet.
Mm.
No, I hadn't.
All I
But
did was talk to a stranger at a horse sale. And I got
yeah.
my and then I my name got thrown in and everything went down from there.
Yeah. Well, that's definitely not all you did.
Right.
Like,
Yeah,
right? Because I can talk to plenty of strangers at the horse
yeah,
sales and they're not going to put me in a hall of fame.
right. Yeah,
So, yeah. But
and that was
like,
the when you ask one question about my life, it turns into 20, and then the 20 questions turns into, um, you know, interviews and podcasts and just which I get it, and I don't do any of this or live this life for the attention or for the bragging rights. Like it's literally just who I am, and I don't even think about it. I just do what I want, and then
mhm.
and then all of this happens, and it's taken me a lot of self reflection and acceptance to just no, your life sounds cool to people, and it's okay.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because you really are very unique in what you do. And you really do need to like set, I want, like as a woman that's been alive for a lot longer than you,
yeah,
um, like settle in. It sounds like 30 is probably your turning point, right? At
right,
30, and this is a pretty universal experience, I think, for people, not
right,
just women, but people, but like settle in to who you are. It sounds like that's kind of happening with you now. And that's cool to see that, like you're trying to figure out who you are. You're 20 years old. You do think you're a know-it-all. You literally think you know everything. I remember I thought everybody else was
oh,
so
yeah,
stupid, how brilliant I was when I was like 19. And I look back and I'm just like, oh my God, I was so dumb. But yes, like own who you are. Obviously, some people see what they see in you. Like I see what I see in you. The
right. And
people
I
that
have to
nominated
tell
you, the
myself
people that
that.
put your name forward,
Yeah.
it wasn't for nothing. It wasn't an accident. It's because you're an ass kicker.
And I finally accepted that too. And like I
Yeah.
said, every single school that I teach helps me learn something about myself.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what people saw in me with this induction is what I see in these girls, the potential I see that I want to give them. So I'm like, okay, someone's just doing to you what you are doing to others. And so I'm like,
Yes.
all right, fine. I can start accepting this and stop feeling like I'm not good enough. Like I finally am good now. So but it did take me about 2 months to really um sit down and talk to myself and say, no, like it's okay, stop being like that, you're fine. But I really did have an imposter syndrome for a long time because I never got to finish my goals with bronc riding like I wanted to. Um, because I started seeing this demand from women that want to learn, and so I set aside my own personal goals to start kind of helping them get theirs. And then it turned in, I was like, oh, it won't last, right? Like I still had the I hate women mentality. I'm like, oh, it won't last. Like I'll do one school here and there and it'll fade away. Like there won't be a demand. I won't get it filled up. And holy shit, was I wrong. Like I could quit my job and just do these schools and live off of that. And it's not that I make money off of this stuff too. I do okay, but it's not about that. But yeah, I have never been so proven wrong in my life, and I'm
Yeah.
glad they did. I'm glad they showed me who they really are and proved me wrong because I wouldn't be this person I am right now without them. And so I
Yeah.
owe as much to them as they do me for teaching
Yeah.
them. I might not go hard down the road anymore, but I did do it at one point. I know what it's like. I know what it takes, so I can offer them that. I
Hmm.
might not be a modern day current 2024 champion of anything, but I do have a past. I have won about 25 buckles.
Yeah.
I do have I do have some statuses and titles here and there, but
Hmm. Yeah.
it's about a generation behind me, so
Yeah.
that's okay.
Yeah, but you don't have anything to prove to anybody.
Right. And
You
that's
know, like you're going out there and you're doing what you're doing because you obviously have your reasons to do it.
and
And
I
really, who
never
gives a
wanted
shit?
yeah. I never wanted to prove anything to anyone
Yep,
but myself.
that's
All of
right.
it was always about me versus me.
Yep.
My whole life. I put my head down, asked the questions I needed to know, showed up, rode, went home. Um, Stuff like that. I never proved it to nobody. I got cocky one time and got piled in the ground, and I never got cocky after that. I was You are humble no matter what, because
Yeah.
it will bite you in the ass later. And I stuck with that mentality, and I practiced it every day. Learn what you can from everybody, even if you don't agree with it, because it might show you something later. Just because it's in your bag doesn't mean you have to pull it out and use it. So
Yeah.
I am grateful for everything that I've gone through.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I'm grateful that you took the time out to chat with me
Yeah,
today. Really, truly, and you're extremely inspirational. You're like the whole why I do this podcast is,
that's awesome.
women like you, and I just really appreciate you sharing your knowledge and sharing your story here with us. Is there what else you got? You got anything else that do you feel like you got everything said that you want to say?
I think so. I can't think of
Yeah.
anything else right now.
Okay. Well, we could always do a part two if you think of something,
Yeah, yeah. I'm always like I said earlier. I can talk Bronx all day, every day,
Yeah.
all the time. So
Yeah.
it's part of the reason why I started doing these schools, because I don't mind it at all, and I've got it broke down into such a nice what do you teachers call it, like a curriculum, or like a
Yep.
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
There you
Yep.
go. I knew there was a word.
You got the
I
word.
I have the perfect system now where I'm really proud of myself.
Good for you.
Yeah, I've got it down to a rhythm, and I love it now.
Yeah. That's awesome. That's great. Well, I'll let you get back to it. I know between like getting hay hauled and
Yeah, I still have hay in my hair too, but
oh,
it's
you know what? I've showed up at meetings with I may have my friends like picking hay out of my hair. I'm like, sorry, I had to feed the horses before I came.
yeah. And that round bale kicked my ass too. It took me an extra 20 minutes to get it out of my pickup because
Oh no.
it fell over on like the flat side where it was sitting on the ground. And oh my God, I'm like, yep, you're out of shape and you definitely don't ride Bronx anymore, because that took everything I had and I was huffing. Oh, it was
Yeah.
horrible. Horrible. And then it made me 20 minutes late to everywhere else I needed to go. So
It's just the ripple effect.
yeah, it did. It did for sure. But
Funny.
no,
Good.
thanks for doing this and listening to me, because I can talk.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Absolutely riveted the whole time. And I hope I didn't interrupt you too much. I hope that you got everything said that you felt like you wanted to.
I got quite a bit out. Yeah.
Good. Good. Awesome. Awesome. Okay, well, I'll end it here.
Okay.
And then you have my solemn promise that I won't post this until you've had a chance to listen to it and tell
Oh no,
me
you're
any
good.
editing. Like I really don't edit these much at all. Like I'll cut out some of the beginning stuff, but I'll send it to you and you can tell me if there's anything you want me to change in it at all or take out of it or whatever. But
I'm pretty
I'm
good.
terrible at editing, so like I can cut things out, but otherwise it doesn't get much editing.
No, I'm good. You don't have to send it to me to review. I'm fine
Okay.
with it. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
I got nothing to
Yeah.
hide.
No, no, yeah, no, not yeah, absolutely.
Uh,
Okay, Brittany, well, you take good care and I look
thank
forward to
you.
seeing you. I'll be watching for your induction into the Hall of Fame because
Thanks.
that's freaking awesome.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. I
Yeah.
got I got in last year, but I got out voted because the guy was in bad health and was about to die, so they got they technically I should have been in last year, but I'm like when they told me that, I'm like, "Oh my god, it's fine. I'm
Yeah,
still gonna be here." And
it's all fair.
I'm like, "Oh my god, wow. No, please get him in there," because
Yeah,
I felt horrible. I'm like, "Really? That don't feel bad for telling me that. It's okay."
yeah,
Like, I don't
yeah,
even feel like I deserve it, so, um,
yeah,
it's all good, but
yeah,
thank you. I'm excited
yeah,
for it, really.
yeah. Good. Okay, well, thanks so
Alright,
much. You have a good night and you drive safe and pet
thank
those
you.
dogs.
Yeah, I
All
know, they're
right, we'll
sleeping.
see ya.
Bye.
Bye bye.